Assalamu alaikum and welcome to today's live podcast. I am your host Nakibullah and I am absolutely thrilled to have an extraordinary guest with us today. Our guest is someone who has dedicated his life to shaping education and leadership across the globe. Joining us today is Peter Hall-Jones, a former kindergarten teacher and primary head teacher who went on to become a global master trainer for the British Council. He has played a key role in developing school leaders and national curriculum in over 40 countries, including Pakistan. Alongside this, Peter has led a successful mindset and culture change company in the UK, working across various sectors. What truly sets Peter apart is his unwavering passion for meaningful, relevant, and compassionate education, believing in its power to transform the lives of students and communities alike. Peter, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Well, it's thank you so much, Nakib, for inviting me. It's a real pleasure. We were just reminiscing before the broadcast started that we first met 14 or so years ago, and you touched my heart then, as did your colleagues that I work with, and you've been a big part of my thinking ever since. So, assalamu alaikum to everybody taking part in the broadcast today. It's an absolute joy and a pleasure to be with you all.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much, Peter, for your precious time. You have been an inspiration for me and for many people across the globe. Can you share with us your life story and what shaped you into who you are today?
Um, well, that's a challenge, isn't it? As we're an education audience, let me stick with the education side, if I may. Um, my mum was a teacher, and but I didn't really enjoy school. I
Mm.
didn't find school easy. It never made sense to me, and I don't think I made sense to the teachers. In England at the time, there was an exam that students took at the age of 11, which determined which sort of school and the sort of opportunities they would have. For the children who achieved well on the academic test, they went to what we called a grammar school, a selective school, an academic school largely. For the children who
Mm.
didn't do quite so well, they went to a technical or vocational school. And for those of us who failed the test completely, we went to a school that were called secondary modern, which were, I'm not quite sure what their purpose was. It wasn't a particularly happy experience for me. I came from a family of high achievers, all of whom would pass that test. I seem to remember I was the last one to sit it and the first one to fail it. Um, but in that school, as in every school in the world, there were, for me, fortunately, a handful of teachers who saw something in me, who saw potential, who chose to see what there was in me rather than to see what there wasn't and what I was not good at. They, in that modern sense, they saw me, and I had a sense of belonging with them. And it may have been a love of the subject, or it may have been a love of the human, but they began to get me to believe in myself. And although I was at odds with the curriculum largely, and it didn't fit and I didn't excel, these two or three teachers held a flag for me, it seemed, and would whisper to me and would support me and got me to believe in myself. And that led me to go on to struggle with the next level, which was the 16 to 18. I had to go to a different school because my school didn't offer education for anybody over 16. Uh, and again, I struggled there with the academics. I knew that in my brain, I thought I was clever. Everybody thinks they're clever. But it wasn't proved by the exam results. It wasn't proved by when the teachers marked my work. But I found
Mm.
that I was good at philosophy. I was able to do a philosophy qualification, which would have qualified me to go to university. And I think I was just growing into myself. I think it's crazy that we would divide children at the age of 11 At the age of 11, I was average height, but between the ages of 15 and 17, I grew about 20 centimeters to become significantly above average in height. It seems crazy that we would measure and decide
Mm.
on children's potential 11. And I was fortunate that between the ages of 16 and 18, I began to find subjects that I could excel in. And it was at this time that I realized that I had a calling in almost a spiritual sense, a calling to be a teacher. I was very politically driven. I wanted to change the world. I was pained by inequalities and the unfairnesses that I saw in my own community and globally. And I was aware that because of my supportive parents, because of their financial success, their social success, I was I had options and chances that other children with equal or far superior intellects were not going to have. So I had a calling to be a teacher, and I was very, very, very fortunate to go to the most extraordinary teacher training college in England, uh, where I met exceptional educators, and where, for the first time in my life, I found my place where I belonged, where
Mm.
I could teach, and I had some skill at teaching, but where my skill was lacking, I had a passion to get better, and I was supported by great educators. And from there, I was able to secure my first teaching post in the centre of London. I took another post in London before I moved to the north of England, where I was very fortunate to become a head teacher of a primary school during a very exciting political time in our country, where our political masters were very supportive of the sort of community based education that I was committed to. So I had my 15 minutes of fame with
Mm.
articles in magazines and invited to meetings and bit of TV or whatever, and school was able to become ever more ambitious and ever more confident with the confidence that those experiences gave us. And then I came across a mindset and culture change business who offered me a job,
Mm.
and I was able to take that job and work with them for a few years. And during that time, I was invited to take part in the national curriculum review for England. We then had a change of government who didn't like the
Mm.
curriculum that we had designed with thousands of teachers. But at the same time, the British Council and I bumped into each other in a conference room, and they asked if I would work with the British Council, and I wasn't too sure about the British Council at the time. I was ignorant. I was impressed with the people that I met who worked there, hugely impressed by their moral purpose, particularly Susan Douglas. Uh, and Susan asked me if I would work for the British Council, and I said I would like to work with the communities of Southeast Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa because they were the communities that represented the children in my school. And in a
Mm.
few weeks' time, I was in Pakistan, much to
Yes.
my surprise and absolute delight, which was the start of a relationship with Pakistan that went on for the next 10 or 12 years, I think up until COVID, really. Uh, and I've made a huge number of friends, a huge number of mentors, people who I admire, not least yourself, Nakib. And here we are 15 years later, talking over the internet to you and your colleagues. So that's a brief history of my educational career. I hope that helps.
Oh, that is truly amazing and inspiring, and we are grateful to all those people who supported you, who saw many things in you, who became your mentors, and finally, they gave us Peter Hall Jones in the shape of a wonderful educator, teacher's educator, master educator, and that was my luck. I met you in Lahore during a training, and I'm very lucky to be your student. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yes, Peter, what have been the biggest lessons you have learned throughout your journey?
Okay, that's a great one, isn't it? These are tough questions. I think one of the things I've learned is that the world is full of good and kind people. Uh, I have met many, many thousands of people in dozens of countries and hundreds of settings around the world. The vast vast majority are kind, good people who are caring and want to help others. Those people who are less happy, it seems to me, have had difficulties in their life that have caused them to be happy. I choose to believe that babies are born neutral, content, or
Mm.
happy, and that things happen to people on the way that change their attitude towards themselves and others. And I think, having been frightened of people who were angry or violent, having been unsettled by people who I didn't understand as a young man, my realization that, in my opinion, people are born good changed my attitude towards angry and violent and complicated people. And I chose, and this may be patronizing, and I apologize if it is, but I chose to see them as victims rather than culprits. And my
Mm.
attitude towards them changed. And it encouraged me to want to help those people to achieve the happiness and contentment that I see the majority of us are blessed with. So I think one of my great underlying beliefs is that people are born good, and people who are unhappy, or who are angry, or who are cynical, or who are pessimistic, it is because sadly things have happened to them in their life. And I believe that we, and those of us who are privileged to be more content and more happy, have a responsibility to work with them. I've also realized, and I think it was Carl Andre who said this before me, or Carl, might not Carl, that there's no such thing as teaching. I've always been confused by the concept of teaching. Um, People who said, "Well, I taught you that last week." Well, if I didn't learn it, you didn't teach it. So I've always been much more
Mm.
interested in learning than teaching. Now, clearly, I call myself a teacher, uh, but I've always been fascinated by learning, not so much by the science or art of teaching, though I am interested in that too. But to understand how a learner is thinking, how I can model, remodel that which needs to be learned so it fits in the brain,
Mm.
the motivation, and the mindset, and the context, and the relevance of a child. I've always thought was the a great intellectual pursuit, and one that I failed at every day. But to try and understand how I'm going to translate that which I want to teach into a form so that it is easily learned. I've always felt it's the responsibility of the teacher to get the learning. Right? And but I've met some teachers who think their responsibility is to do the teaching, and it's the child's responsibility to do the learning. And I disagree on that. So I think one of the
Mm.
things I've learned is there's no such thing as teaching. There's only learning. I think um,
Mm.
I think the I'm concerned about the scientification of education. I appreciate the great value of research, and the great insights that academics and researchers given us. But I do worry that if we see teaching as a science, if we teach science, if we see teaching as technical, you need to do this and you need to do that, and you need to ask that sort of question, and you need to, then any child who doesn't learn is seen as a problem, because if I'm heavily research based and I know the best way to teach, if you haven't learned, even though I've used the best way of teaching, there must be something wrong with you.
Mm.
I worry about that. I worry about the increase in special needs, the increase in labeling, the increase in children being made to feel uncomfortable or unworthy of school. And I really want to get back to the art of teaching and to the moral purpose of teaching, and that is it's my job to find a way of you learning. You, I love it. There's a great slogan which is, "They are clever enough when I am good enough," and I love that phrase, because the
Mm.
children, the learner, is always clever enough if I am good enough, and so I'm anxious about believing that I know the best ways of teaching, because if they don't work, that means the problem is with the learner. I don't think I do know the best ways of teaching. I've got to find the best ways of teaching you. And I think that's a slight anxiety I've got. I've realized that teachers make people. I know that
Mm.
parents, communities, and it takes a village, but teachers,
Yes.
what I say and what I do as a teacher can have a huge impact upon those children for the rest of their lives. And as a teacher, I only want to have a positive impact, but I'm absolutely certain that there have been some children and some people that I've worked with where I've made a joke, where I haven't been good enough, where I've turned my back to them, either physically or metaphorically, unintentionally, and I have put them back and I have made them feel bad about themselves. So with the greatest of humility, I try to work with teachers to realize the extraordinary position of power we have, and to teach by intent, to
Mm.
to be in the building with the intention of doing good. We may fail, but I am going to physically, energetically intend to have a positive impact. I may fail, but I would rather fail at something that I intended to do than succeed at something
Mm.
I didn't intend to do. So I think that intentionality and that humble confidence of us as teachers to build people and to see our roles as leaders in community, along with many other leaders in
Mm.
no higher than anybody else, but to take that seriously. I think I've also learned that teaching like a human is important. I am
Yes.
really excited about AI. I am
Mm.
excited about the research. I'm excited about the insights about how the brain works, about culture, about organization. But I really ache when I see teachers who seem to me to have lost the notion of humanity. Teachers who are so
Mm.
preoccupied with doing the right thing that they don't always feel comfortable or have the brain space to react like a human being. And I'm so excited by what AI and other innovations will offer us as teachers, because I
Mm.
AI and those other innovations will give me more time to be human, and the need
Mm.
for humans working with humans, to mentor, to coach, to love, to laugh, to experience joy, to tease, all those human qualities that I think the best teachers in my life exude. AI will do a lot of the other stuff better than I can do, which will
Mm.
free me up for that human interaction with teachers. And as the world becomes more systematized, more roboticized, more technically adept, as the world of work, as families change, the need for us and the opportunity for us to have human connectivity with each other is to be celebrated, because
Mm.
romantically, in a science fiction sense, the robots and the AI can do the other stuff and we can just be human with each other. And I get excited by that. I'm particularly excited about the work of Michael Stevenson, senior advisor at OECD PISA, and the work he is leading on the post AI curriculum, focusing as it
Mm.
will, I believe, on ethics, because we have to be very mindful of the ethical values behind AI. If
Yes.
AI is based upon the knowledge which is out there on the internet, then that knowledge already has a value to it, much of it being produced by white Western men. And we have to be
Mm.
mindful of the ethics and the values around AI. And Michael's doing a lot of work on that. I think at the moment, AI isn't particularly good at thinking outside its silos. So, complex problem solving, the fact that as humans we can look at the clouds and think of poetry, we can look at apples falling for a tree and think of gravity. Uh, that complex problem solving, which seems to be a human gift still, I think we need to emphasize that as Michael is working on that. And lastly, the bit that OECD are working on is this post AI curriculum where we look at human flourishing. And
Mm.
I can't flourish if my friends in Pakistan and America and Gaza and Brazil, I can't flourish if they don't flourish. And we can't flourish if our globe, our planet doesn't flourish. So I think the post AI curriculum work which PISA are doing really excites me. It liberates my thinking as a teacher. It makes me optimistic about what human teachers can do with and for our children.
That is pretty amazing. We are learning so much from your insights. I am so delighted that we are having a great human, not only a great teacher, but a great human in our today's podcast. And your lovely sentence says that if you are not learning, so it means I am not teaching. I love it. Thank you so much, Peter. Okay, Peter. In life, we often or sometimes we get some advice, some piece of advice from parents or teachers. Could you please share with us if you ever had some piece of advice from your parents or mentors or your teachers in your life, and what were those piece of advice?
Well, so much. We are the construct of the people that touch us, aren't we? I was thinking about this question. You kindly sent it to me last night, and I was wondering what my daughter would say that my
Hmm.
wife and I have given her. So I don't know whether she's watching today. She's at university. She might be watching. Now, of course, she won't be watching her dad. I mean, why would she? But I was wondering what she might say. So I thought about my parents. But my father is still alive. He's 94. My mother died recently at 93. Um,
Much.
and I'm what is it that what is the root? What is it that goes through me that is of them? And I'm sure there are so many things: my looks, my mannerisms, my politics, all sorts of things. But thinking about it last night when you gave me this list, um, one of the powerful things I'm very aware of is that my mum would not allow us to use, think, or say the word hate. We were never allowed to say that we hated anything. And I won't allow myself or anybody in my fam in my family to use the word hate. I may dislike, I may not understand, I might be scared, I might pity, but let's not hate. There is there are a number of people who seem to hate. And I think, where does hate come from? It's a lovely organisation in the UK called Hope, not Hate. And I think if I could wave a magic wand and rid the world of hate, hate of self, hate of others, uh, that would be a great thing. And I'm delighted that my mum brought me up in that way. I find it liberating because occasionally I find myself almost using the word hate, and I won't let myself because we don't need to hate. We need to find a way through it. So that's an important one. I was brought up, my parents enjoyed professional and social success. And my dad and mum would take me to events where there were powerful people. We would say in England they were posh people, they were wealthy people, they were successful people. And they were not the sort of people that I had as neighbours or as family. And I was a bit intimidated by them, and I was a bit excited. Some of them were minor celebrities, and I was excited by them, but a bit threatened by them. And my mum and dad would always say, "They're only people. They are only people." And I think that's an important line to remember when we're intimidated or where we feel out of place. They are only people. And having spent the last few years doing quite a bit of coaching with extraordinary people, young people, old people, successful people, people with anxieties and issues, we are all just people and we all have anxieties. We all have talents. We are all, we have much more in common than we have in difference. And they're only people, but they are people. And we see in horrific situations around the world where we talk about people as numbers or victims or collateral. No, no, they are people. They are people with aspirations and hopes and the potential to love. They are people with brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and sons and daughters. They are people with neighbours. And I think it's really important that we never describe people by numbers, but we should describe people, we should always think of people's names and their families because they are me. I am them. And the last thing that I thought I really got from my mum and dad is that to do the right thing, especially when no one is looking. And this idea
Mm.
of personal integrity, personal standing. There's a wonderful rugby player, now retired, called Johnny Wilkinson, who's one of my heroes. And he, I believe, has this notion that a video camera is watching him all the time. And when he dies, the video will be played back in front of his family and friends. And he doesn't want to be embarrassed by anything on the video. And I love that concept. I find it liberating that I will seek to do the right thing, especially when no one is looking, because I will know that I have done the right thing. And whether that's putting chairs away or washing a cup or paying my taxes or correcting a bill when I've been charged incorrectly, whether it's standing by somebody who is scared, whatever it might be, to try and do the right thing, especially when no one is looking, because then I am self reliant and the locus of control is with me, not with somebody else. I'm not doing it for the sake of anybody else. I'm doing it for the sake of being right. Now, I do lots of things wrong, and there's lots of things I'm embarrassed by and I'm ashamed by. But this guiding principle that do the right thing even when no one is looking is one that I'm very honoured that my parents gave me, and I'm sure everybody listening today has their parents gave them exactly the same messages that my parent gave me. But that's why we get on, I suppose. We share the values.
Oh, wow, that's amazing, truly amazing. Yes, we are just people, and that is enough. Wow, what a message. Thank you, Peter. Yes, Peter, you said we shouldn't use the word hat. That was piece of advice from. Yes, may I ask you, should we not hat things which cannot be loved, like terrorism? Like there are so many other things.
Uh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Um, as a teacher.
Hmm.
I try. I want to stop anyone being hurt. Of course I do. Of course I do. I also want to stop the terrorists feeling the hate that leads them to hurt. A terrorist, somebody who was happy, who was seen, who was respected, who liked themselves, who felt loved and was able to love, would not be able to do the actions of a terrorist. Now, clearly, we need to protect our people from horror and from pain. I'm always overwhelmed by people who forgive. I don't have strong spiritual faith around the concept of forgiveness, but I've met so many people, perhaps whose daughters or families have been killed or hurt, when they turn around and say, I forgive. And I'm really interested by the word forgive. I've never been I've never been in a position where I've had to forgive. I've been led such a privileged life. But I can hate the consequences of the actions, but I understand why people would hate somebody who has brought terror and horror and misery to their lives. But if we just hate, if we all just hate those people, then they can never be helped, and they might hurt again. So it's a complicated question you ask, and I would really enjoy that conversation with people more of stronger faith and greater intellect than myself to work it through. But I think as a teacher, I want to help people to understand the wrong of what they do and to help them achieve a happy and content life by doing the right thing. I think that's why I'm a teacher. And even though I might hate the harm they've done, of course I would hate the harm they've done. I wouldn't want to hate them. I'd want them to be safe and us to be safe from them. That might mean incarceration. But I would want to help them because I believe that when they were born and they were held in their mother's arms, they were perfect. And something has happened that made them do hateful things. And I would want to help them. Life has taught me that I'm not always the right or the best person to help everyone, clearly. But I would want, as a leader, to find the right person that could help them. And that invariably will not be me. If my life has taught me anything about leadership, it is that I'm rarely the right person, but it's my job to find the right person. And I would want to do that even for those people who do the most hateful of crimes. And at the same time, very, very much find the right person to help those people who have been hurt and damaged by the hateful acts of others, of course, in equal violence.
Peter, thank you so much for the wonderful insights. We are all learning a lot from you, from your point of view. One thing just clicks my mind that people in the East believe that the world of West is materialistic. They earn a lot of money, they work for money, but these insights are quite different. They are, I would say, they are spiritual. How you have been grown up in UK, advanced, one of the most advanced countries in the world. So that is quite rare. And listening to a white man talking about such thing, I'm not saying it's rare, but we what we believe in our societies. Yes, what would you say? You are
Uh,
talking very differently
we
and
are just
lovely.
we are just people, and people cry and people laugh and people love and people hope. Uh, we just do it in a different context here, and I think when you're a kid and you want something like a toy or some sweets and you're a bit and your mum says no and you're a bit upset and you cry or maybe you get a bit angry and you start to hear the adults saying if you've got your health you have everything, if you have a roof over your head, if there is food on the table. And of course as you get older you realize the truth of that. And I think uh, there are a large number of people, of course, and I am materialistic in all sorts of ways. Of course, I am. But then, recently I've had colleagues and friends who've died far too young. Colleagues and friends who've had diagnoses of illnesses that have changed their lives and their families' lives. And you realize that your mum was right. If you've got your health, you've got everything. And how can I be healthy if you are not healthy? I think COVID was alarming for me. It was alarming for us all. But the race to get the medicine, which was a global race, I thought for us all. And I was shocked that there was a me, me, me. We want it first. We'll have it first, and then we'll send it to the others. I found that utterly extraordinary because I was brought up at the table, you serve other people first. I was brought up that you make sure the other people have food first. And I was really shocked by that me-ness. And I think I see all sorts of positives amongst young people and old people that there is a change coming, that the me of populism, the me that I see in many individuals around the world, some of them with great power, is distasteful. It's unworkable. It's unsustainable. It is not how parents bring up their children to be me. And so I think materialism is evolving. I think I think less is more is becoming a notion that I hear more and more talk about. I meet young people who are happy to work 4 days a week and spend time with each other 3 days of the week. I see a big change in people's pursuit of what is good and what is healthy. For some people, that will be based around a spiritual belief system, and for others, quite secular. Um, but I do think that in the UK, for all our great riches and all our great advances and our great securities, there is also an understanding that we can buy and buy and buy and buy and buy, but that's not necessarily where happiness lies. I was remember the great Lou Tice, who's a great coach. One of my great coaches, a big impact on my life. Talked about a compliment is a present wrapped up in words. And we learn that giving a present brings as much joy, if not more joy, than receiving a present. But if I wait for somebody to give me a compliment, a present wrapped up in words, sometimes I have to wait all day, all week, all month. But I have the power to give away as many compliments and feel that buzz of pleasure. I can give away as many compliments as I want. Now, the compliment has to be sincere and authentic and so on. But I have this power, as we all do, to compliment colleagues, to thank colleagues, to be grateful. And in doing that, I also get a hit of pleasure for myself. And I think this rebalancing of getting pleasure by receiving stuff and accumulating stuff is insatiable. You can never have enough. We see people with billions of pounds or billions of dollars, and they want more. I don't get that. We see people who have billions who like to give it away to people who have none, and we see people who've got billions who want more for themselves. And I think I know who's happier. So I think there's a change afoot. I think as we come together as communities, as a global community with shared interests and shared concerns, I think there is a growing awareness that accumulation and avarice is not the source of happiness. But there are plenty of people out there that would disagree with me, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Peter. I remember one of your talk in Lahore at Ali Institute of Education. You said, I will teach the first thing to my children is to say thank you to the people. And I then back when I came my home, I had a lot to share with my family. Particularly, your this sentence clicked my heart and my mind and my soul, and to thank people. And that was something very amazing. Thank you so much, Peter Hall Jones. I am pleased to have you in this show with me, and my audience is definitely very happy too. Yes, Peter. Before I ask you about what success is, I know you have been working on curriculum development in different countries, including Pakistan as well, if I am not wrong. Okay, good. So, yes, could you please just share some points about curriculum in Pakistan? What did you do with curriculum of Pakistan? What developments were there? Could you just share something about Pakistani curriculum? In your work on that?
Okay. Well, the fact is that Pakistan is producing extraordinary doctors and social workers and teachers and mathematicians and accountants and engineers and medics and. So there clearly is a wonderful curriculum in Pakistan that is enabling Pakistan to grow as a country, economically, socially, morally, intellectually. It's taking its place on the world stage. So there's nothing wrong with the Pakistan curriculum. You have problems, you have tensions, like every country in the world, about accessing that curriculum to all children and to evolving a curriculum which identifies, supports, and stimulates the interests and intellectual abilities of all children. Every country in the world has that challenge. You, like many other countries in the world, are having the knowledge versus skills debate as if they are separate. You can be skillful with knowledge, and you need knowledge to have a skill. So they are yin and yang. They are to my mind, they are two sides of the same coin. You have been looking at competency-based curriculum. competencies, skills, knowledge, and values. A triangle, a virtuous triangle of I have knowledge, I have skills, and I use it in a value-driven way, a positive value-driven way. Um, like many other countries around the world, you are exploring assessment. What do we mean by measuring? To what purpose are we measuring children? Are we measuring them in a diagnostic sense so that we can help them learn more and better? Are we assessing them in a judgmental sense? Have they achieved a level? Are we measuring the right things? Are we measuring the right things accurately? Are we able to communicate those measures in a way that parents and the real world understand? So you are exploring many of the things that other countries are exploring, and you have a contribution to make to that world discussion. I think in the past, Pakistan, some of the people I met in Pakistan thought that they were the recipients of wisdom and advice. And of course, we all are. But I think more and more so, I like to believe that my colleagues in Pakistan have the confidence to see that they have something to offer the world, not just as recipients, but as equal, maybe above equal contributors to these debates. I think your own experience, this very project that we're taking part in today, your experience of working with AI and social media with your pupils in your school is something that many countries, many teachers around the world would be fascinated by. You are a frontiers man. You are exploring what this means and what this looks like. You are coming across the problems and the challenges of doing this bravely. And that wisdom from your experience, I would want to share with the rest of the world so that we can learn from you. I think there is a debate globally around skills, whether skills are subject specific or whether skills are generic. The skill, I think was it Hurston Peters, the philosophers, the skill of thinking effectively as a historian is different from the skills of thinking effectively as an artist or a scientist. Others would argue that there are generic skills of critical thinking or problem solving. Now, of course, critical thinking in academic senses, I think critical thinking comes under the kind of the philosophy subject. If we do philosophy, we are thinking critically. So if we are thinking critically like a philosopher, does that give me the skills to think critically in history and music and science and engineering? I don't know. So I think there's quite a big discussion there. I think the how we as teachers use the research knowledge that's coming through and implement it in our classrooms with large numbers of children in poorly resourced settings, I think is hugely problematic. And I think Pakistan is at the front of that. What I admire about the colleagues I met in Pakistan is given the poor resources that some schools have, given the large class numbers, given the attitude towards education that some families have, we have a body of teachers who are so excited and interested in innovations and are brilliantly applying those innovations in the most complex of circumstances. So I think the overriding message I would want to share and discuss at some point with your colleagues in Pakistan is how do we take the knowledge and the wisdom that Pakistan has had historically and is inventing now through your innovations? How do we take all that knowledge and share it confidently with the West and with other countries in the world as equal members, as equal intellects on the education table? Because I think without Pakistan's contribution and wisdom, we as a group of peoples are lacking because you have such significant contributions to make to those debates. And I hope that is happening. And I hope through organisations like the British Council, through UNICEF, through UNESCO, through all those other global NGOs and NGOs and other organisations, Pakistan's voice is being heard ever more loudly because it deserves to be heard. We have much to learn from you.
Okay, thank you so much. While you were just sharing wonderful ideas, I remembered something from our training in Lahore when you were teaching us. There was a micro teaching. It was about 15 minutes time. We had different groups had. So one of the teacher from Aga Khan University, when we presented, so she criticized a lot. Assessment was a little bit tough. So then you were just passing by, and I shared the idea with you. And I said we had prepared a lot of charts and we presented. Micro teaching was wonderful. We covered this area. You just appreciated us a lot. And then I shared the words with my colleagues that just see the difference. How appreciate see words he is using. Thank you, and we are so grateful to you since that time, and we should have been before that too. Yes, Peter, I just would ask you one question. Thank you for your time you have given us. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self? What advice would you give to younger Peter Hall Jones?
Um, it will be all right. Will be one bit of advice. Um, uh, I suppose as a young person, I tried to fit in. I wanted to belong. I wanted to be like other people. Um, as I matured, and I'm saying this in retrospect, as I matured, I think I worked out what shape I am. And rather than trying to fit in, I've looked for gaps that need my shape. You know the Tetris game that we play on our phones, and the shapes come down the screen, and you turn them round, and you build a wall. Um, I think that rather than trying to fit in and be like other people, it's to work out what shape you are and look for holes in walls that need that shape brick. And whether it's a relationship, whether it's a career, whether it's a community, uh, whether it's a diet, whether it's a whatever it might be, to work out what shape I am, not to give up on improvement or developing, but to work out what shape we are and how we fit in the world and where we are, for whom and where we are perfect fit. I think I met so many young people who are so. There's a great line that says, "Comparison is the killer of joy," and so many young people and older people that I work with who aren't comfortable with themselves, who are dissatisfied, and their dissatisfaction comes often by comparing themselves, whether that's through social media or through career structures or through income or housing or whatever it might be, appearance. Uh, they compare themselves with other people, and it leads to a dissatisfaction. Now, I understand that we can all be guilty of it, but to work out what it is I do best, what I like a tool in a toolkit. They, I think it was Plato says that the techne of the hammer is to hammer in nails, and the techne of a saw is to saw through wood. Now you can hack through a piece of wood with a hammer, and you can bang a nail in with a saw, but that's not what they're there for. So to try and work out what is my techne, what is it, what is my unique contribution to the world, and where would I best offer that unique contribution? Where will I fit best? And I think if we can do that for young people, whether whether they've got a special gift or a special need, or to explore themselves through school, to work out what some of their particular strengths, what their beauties are, and to say, right, let's find a life for you where your beauty will be appreciated, where you will fit the right sort of relationship, the right sort of friends, the right sort of careers, the right sort of lifestyles, where by all means change and grow and develop, But if this is your shape and this is how you want to be, then let's find a those of us who are privileged lead a life where we fit and where we are appreciated and where you're valued. And I think as a young person, if I could have understood that, I don't know whether you can understand that as a young person or whether you have to get a bit older and have a few more lines. But to find a place where you're going to fit and it will be all right. So I think that'd be what I might tell my younger self. And I think the other thing I might do is to we would say in English to get over myself. I think as a young person, I think there was quite a lot of ego. Um, I think I wanted to prove myself, and I think in trying to prove myself, maybe I over exaggerated, or yeah, I think there was a bit too much ego, and I think to to be in a place where you are loved for who you are and where you are valued and appreciated for who you are in your career, in your family, in your community, and just to relax a bit about that. That would have been quite useful. And I think the other thing I said that life is a gallery, not a
Mm.
competition. I think when I was young, and even now, I'm amazed at how many competitions there are. We have competitions for the best teacher. What does that mean? What, you're better than me? I mean, really? I'm better than you? In a museum, in a gallery, you don't have this is the best painting. You just have these are paintings. And some I like and some I don't like. And I think life is a gallery. I don't think it's a competition. I mean, our country is better than your country. What does that mean? You know, under the water, we're all joined together anyway. So it's like countries are only flags. Um, I mean, I like in sport. I like my team to win. I obviously want England to beat Pakistan at cricket. Of course, I do. But it's only fun. It's only afterwards we shake hands and we go and break bread together. It's not serious. And so I think a gallery. If I, it's lovely to watch a great. Even as a Pakistani, it's great to watch Tendulkar hit a ball. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
rightly got bowled out, but he's still. Um, just enjoy the beauty and enjoy the gallery of performance. Enjoy the gallery of people. I'm just amazed that we feel this need to compete and have an award or you're better than that. You won. Well, I- you won. I don't win unless we all win, and we can't win. We can't win. The big environmental global issues of our planet. We all have to win, or we all lose. I can't
Yeah.
have a better ozone than you've got. I mean, that's not how it works. So I think yeah, I wish I had known as a child it was a gallery, not a competition.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
stop.
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Yes, we wish our countries win matches. Yeah, that is something else. And Peter, do you remember my cover drive?
Yes,
I had posted a video of my cover drive.
that's right. Yeah, I mean it's okay. If you
Yeah,
were if you were playing for England, it would have been great. But yeah,
yeah. You said that if you can come to join the English teams, we would welcome you. Thank you very much. Yes, Peter. Uh, what are your thoughts on the future of education and leadership? How do you see education in future, including that after the integration of AI in education, it has there is a huge transition, a big transition in this field. How do you see the future of education?
okay. Um, Well, we have to remember, I think, that when the
Mhm.
Industrial Revolution took place, we said it would change education. When the technological revolution began, we said it would change education. And yet, I don't know about you, but most classrooms look pretty much the same as they did 100 years ago. So I think we have to be careful in imagining that AI is going to change everything. I'm a revolution, not an evolution guy. So I would love it if it did change it, but I suspect it won't change it that much. I would love it if AI allowed teachers and other adults to spend more time having relationships with children that were coaching and mentoring and productive and safe. Uh, I would love it if we adopted much more flexible approaches to education where we focused on learning, not on schooling, where we are in our country at the moment, for reasons that I understand, we have a really big focus on attendance, children attending school. Uh, I understand that from a safeguarding point of view. I understand that from the evidence that says that kids who go to school do better and they have better lives. I get that. But at the same time, children attending to learning might be different to attending a school. Some children who come to school learn to hate themselves, learn to believe they don't fit in, learn to blame themselves. Uh, and I think if we could have a much more flexible approach, a safe, flexible approach to learning wherever you can learn, with whomever you can learn from, and remove it from it has to be in the school between these hours in this classroom doing this. So I would love that. I'm not sure that is going to happen, but I would love that. Leadership, I think school leadership. I think at the moment there's a bit of a battle going on. There's a battle for central control or local control. And I can argue both cases. I am really on the fence on that one. I would love to look at systems where we could agree on national and global frameworks, but allow for appropriate personalisation at the local level. And by the local level, I mean right down to the individual child. That how we get our heads around that, I don't know. I I see so many leaders who, for one reason or another, whether they're scared or whether they're stressed or whether they're worried about judgment, who seem to who lose sight of their humanity. I see leaders who do cruel things to their staff. I see leaders who treat the children's parents so badly and so disrespectfully. And yet, when I meet those teachers, when I meet those leaders, they're lovely people, they're good people, but something seems to happen. And some, not all, of course, there's millions of people who don't do this, but some who, when you kind of reflect back to them what they've done and what they're kind of like, why did I do that? So I think I would like to I would like to believe that leadership is going to become more human, and that we are going to be a little bit, well, as one human to another human. How would I do that? What is it to be human? I think we've got so systematized and so technical, and leadership has become the deployment of a number of I've 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 been democratic, I've been visionary, I've been a team builder, I've done this, I've done that. No, 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 no. Have you been human? And I think my favorite leaders, the ones that I love, are the ones who are basically human, and they think, well, how would I like to be treated? Um, how would that work best? How would that be heard? How would that go down? How would somebody respond to that? Um, as opposed to doing the right thing. I always think about musicians. Now, as a musician, you can play the notes on the script. You can play all the right notes. But when you're in an orchestra, you have to listen to the other instruments. You have to watch the conductor, because just playing my notes doesn't necessarily make it music. And I think we've got in our profession, for whatever reasons, we've got quite a lot of people who are doing the right thing. They're playing the right notes of leadership. They're playing the right notes of pedagogy, but it doesn't feel very lovely, and it doesn't feel very moving, and it doesn't feel that we've achieved anything bigger than the bits. If you had, sometimes when you've got children in a band and they've all played the right notes, but it just sounds awful. But everyone's played the right notes, but it didn't come together as a piece of music. Or in a choir, everybody could sing the right words, but it doesn't make it. It doesn't make it music. It doesn't make it moving. It doesn't make you want to dance or cry. Well, it might make you want to cry, but so I think I just want to move a bit beyond the technical in teaching and the technical in leadership. Um, and then there are so many wonderful leaders and teachers out there that are that have all those skills and techniques, but they use them as a human, as a toolbox. They don't. You see, if you had if you had an engineer that came into your house and said, "I have to use every tool," that would be weird. You'd say, "I need to use the right tool for the job." And yet, I think, I don't. Wherever I've been in the world, I've met a few teachers and a few leaders who think, "Well, I've got all these tools. I've got to use them, otherwise I'm not good." Well, no, you've only got to use the right tool at the right time, you know. And I think that worries me a bit. So I'd like to think that leadership and teaching will get past this rather enthusiastic phase that we're going through for all things research, all things technical, and say, yeah, well, let's take all those things in now. So let's take them all in, and then let's use them as an artist. Let's use them as a craftsperson to create children of beauties, schools of beauty. If you think about a great artist, they they don't use all the paints, they don't use all the chisels, they don't use all the instruments. They use the right ones, and they work with the medium that they've got. They work. Was it Leonardo who revealed the sculpture from the stone? And I think uh, I would like it if we had leaders, more leaders, even more leaders, and teachers who wanted to reveal the child or reveal the teacher from the stone and use all the techniques in order to reveal the beauty rather than to try and carve out a perfect thing. Because if you're an artist, you wouldn't want to carve out two things exactly the same, would you? They'd all be a bit different. And I think
Mm.
we have a bit of a culture at the moment about we know what perfect looks like. Let's do a production line and produce perfect teachers. Well, they're really good at doing all the things, but we have a lot of kids who don't want to go to school. We've got a lot of people who don't want to be teachers and a lot of people who don't want to be head teachers. So I think we have to be really careful about this. I think it's more of an art than a science, but everybody keeps telling me it's a science, but I'm not sure. I think it's an art. I'm old.
Okay. Okay, right. Peter, I have observed one thing. You still look very energetic, like you were in Lahore. You still look very young, and
Bless you.
I am sure there is a kind heart behind all this scene,
Well, I hope.
and wonderful and amazing thoughts behind all this. Yes, Peter Hall Jones, I would move towards my last question. I'm grateful to you for your time. What message would you like to give to our audience today? We would love to hear your message.
Well, thank you for being teachers. Thank you for being educators. Thank you for leaving your families to work with the children of other families. Thank you for your professional love of other people's children. Thank you for your optimism. Thank you for trying again. The great thing about teachers is that after break time, we try again. Tomorrow, we try again. In the new year, we try again. So, thank you for your optimistic trying. Thank you for touching and seeing, believing in the potential of children. I started off this lovely conversation with Nakibi reminiscing about some teachers in my primary school and teachers in my high school who saw me, who saw something in me. I have forgotten what they taught me, but I remember that they did. And to have these people in our lives who value us, who see us, who get us, has made me, and I'm sure has made us all. And you, as teachers, second only, I think, to parents, we as teachers are the most likely ones to see a child and to give them that affirmation. And that's an extraordinarily privileged position to be in. That by me seeing, taking the time, having the heart, having the intention, choosing to see a child and the potential in them might make that child will will help make that child into the human of potential. And I thank you for doing that every day. I thank you for doing that every day, even when you are poorly, when you are tired, when you are worried, when you are poorly paid, when you are poorly resourced, and when you are poorly respected. But for those children that we touch and see, we are rich and we enrich them. So thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for bringing up children not to hate. Thank you for bringing up children to be problem solvers. Thank you for bringing up children to experience joy and to give joy to others.
Mm.
I am so very, very proud to be a teacher in a community of teachers like those I've met across Pakistan and all the other countries of the world I've been privileged to work in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. I don't have enough words to use to thank you. But a huge and a very big thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to sincerely thank you for everything. Your support and efforts truly mean a lot, Peter. And I appreciate all that you do. Your kindness and dedication don't go unnoticed. Thank you so much, Peter, for your time. I am
Nakid,
so
Nakid,
I
if I may interrupt, Nakid, don't ever underestimate the impact that you and your colleagues had on me. Don't ever underestimate that.
I am truly happy that we still have Peter's guidelines with us, his dedication with us. Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Take
your
care,
time.
everyone.
Thank
Much love. Bye bye.
you. Bye.